Hey, welcome to Filler. I'm Joe.
And I'm Steve. And just to clarify, for anyone who doesn't know, when you see the flyer for the show or the poster that our friend Zach drew, I'm the one on the left.
I'm the one with all the tattoos.
Yep. And I'm the one with the hidden tattoos, so they're not in the in the drawing. Yeah. Because I just realized there's some people that don't know us that are going to listen to this and be like, oh yeah, which one is Joe and which one's Steve?
Oh, that's a good clarification. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Yeah, so now to set the record straight, I'm the guy with the coffee.
Yeah, and I haven't even really been drinking lately. I like coffee too, but I'll have a beer now and then. 30s, man.
I know.
So this is going to be a little bit different of an episode as we start to prep for an upcoming mini series. Oh, Maudie's very excited for this episode. She just gave a little yelp.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just going to drop off some recommendations this week, and then we'll see you back here next week with the first episode in a trilogy.
Believe so.
Of episodes. I don't think I want to tease anything more than that.
It being a trilogy is kind of a hint, actually.
I'm trying to think of how it could be I don't even understand the hint. You got to tell me that.
Because there are 3 people in the thing that we're talking about.
Oh wow. Okay.
It's such a stretch, but whatever.
Yeah, that's fair. There's also 3 numbers.
There's another clue for you.
So, Steve, what are your recommendations for our listeners this week?
Well, there's been some crazy stuff going on in the world lately, in case you haven't seen literally anything on news or social media. And one of these things is banning books. And since we like to talk about books on this show, I went out and bought a couple that I was kind of afraid I might not be able to get in a little while. So I'm starting to read up on some philosophy, including some Karl Marx stuff, like his work with Friedrich Engels. And then I realized that I might be too dumb to understand it. So I picked up another book called Why Marx Was Right by Terry Eagleton. And it's basically just Marxism for dummies. It's a funny and brief explanation and rebuttal of some of the most common arguments against Marxism and socialism. Basically, everything like, it's a good idea, but it doesn't work in practice. And it cites a lot of specific things that Marx was aware of when he wrote his theories to account for what could cause his ideas to fail, and historical context of why they have in the past. So I think it's a very interesting read. It's very funny, and it's only slightly too smart for me. So I'm really enjoying it and would recommend it.
Before you go on to your next one, I just wanted to ask, did you read Marx's Communist Manifesto?
So that was the other book I bought, and and it's beautiful. It's a little like leather bound copy that almost looks like a Bible, and to me is more useful. So I was looking at it and I was like, I have a feeling a lot of this might go over my head. So let me see some of these theories in more plain speak, more modern language first, and see if it, if I can like get myself into the right mindset for it. Yeah, it's something I've always been interested in. So now I'm doing it while I can, because we might not be able to get these books for much longer. So
that's fair.
Yeah, that's what I've been reading lately. And for another recommendation, it kind of ties into that. Have you ever played Animal Crossing and thought, wow, Tom Nook is this super capitalist debt monger that
actually, yes, that's all I thought of Tom Nook when I played it.
Pretty much, right? So if you would like an alternative to that has an entire economy based on bartering and friendship, might I recommend Hello Kitty Island Adventure. It has been on Apple Arcade since the end of 2023 and just came out on Nintendo Switch. My partner has been playing it nonstop since it came out earlier in January, and it has been so much fun to watch. It's so cute. She's fallen in love with Cinema Roll, so I got her a plush of him for Valentine's Day, and it really is like Animal Crossing with a story mode. You just it's like Animal Crossing meets Breath of the Wild with
Wow.
a surprising amount of Marxist ideas in play. so it's one hand washing the other. I think it's one is making me appreciate the other as far as these
That kind of sounds like
recommendations
my
go.
ideal game.
I think you would love it. I know your partner would love it, especially how much you liked Animal Crossing. So yeah.
Yeah.
But the reality is we are not moving toward Friendship Island's economy and social structure anytime soon. And we must participate in a capitalist society. So this is why I would like to initiate a little campaign for this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
What's the number one way podcasts make money, Joe?
Advertising.
Advertising. We need sponsors. I don't like it, but that's the only way we're really going to make this into a sustainable project. But how do you know what sponsors to go for? You know, do you go along with ExpressVPN and Squarespace and Raid Shadow Legends and Raycon? Actually, I do really like Raycon, but that's not the point.
Looks like the advertising worked on you there.
It did work on me, but there's so many things out there, and you never know who's trustworthy, and you don't know if people should trust you for chilling for them, you know? So I want to get a sponsor that I deeply believe in and love. And that target for me is Spindrift Sparkling Water.
Mm.
I do not drink alcohol anymore. I haven't really drank soda except for an occasional Baja Blast in years. It's been like 5-6 years, I think, since I've had soda like more than once a month, something like that. Probably a lot longer stretches than that. And Spindrift honestly turned me on to sparkling water, kind of weaned me off of that syrupy taste of soda because it's just fruit and carbonated water, and it's great. I love it. I love almost every flavor. I could talk endlessly about it and recommend it to anybody. The problem is, if I just do that over and over without getting paid for it, then they have no reason to sponsor us.
Yeah.
So I'm issuing a formal challenge to Spindrift.
Oh.
Yes. Every week that you do not sponsor us, I will make something up about you. And for anyone listening to this episode, they will know I actually love the product. But going forward, they're going to think I just have this weird vendetta against this random carbonated beverage. So I would like to issue my first Spindrift propaganda declaration. I once tripped on a can of Spindrift and broke my knee.
That sounds really painful.
Yeah, because someone just like threw it on the ground. They were like, ugh, this is gross. Threw it right in front of me. I couldn't see it in time, and I just slipped on the can and fell kind of face forward, but directly on my right knee.
Did you slip on the can because it was glistening with such perfect sweat because it's just the right temperature on a really hot day?
Funny enough, yes. And, you know, I should clarify, they didn't actually say this is gross and throw it on the ground. They were just like, oh, the flavor's too good. It's too strong. You know, it's like I didn't expect so much real fruit flavor. And it was amazing how much he was able to say in the 2 seconds it took him to sip and throw it on the ground. But yeah, I'm really disappointed that they're not getting their messaging out there well enough.
That sounds devastating.
Yeah, it is, and I'm disappointed and disheartened. Yeah, so Spindrift, you have 1 week to respond. If you do not, then I will continue to spread the word about the damage that you are causing in the world.
This is a really good plan. I think it's going to work. I think it's like what's that idea when you take someone captive and then they come around to your side?
Stockholm
What's that
syndrome?
called? Yeah, and there's our next hint for the upcoming series. Oh man, I do have to say, on a note of serious about Spindrift, you got me into Spindrift, and I like non-flavored sodas,
Hmm.
but now I like Spindrift.
Hmm.
And I don't know why, because they're not right for not sponsoring us, but
Right. And honestly, that's kind of fucked up that Spindrift would change who you are as a person, you know, to be
yeah,
someone who doesn't like flavored seltzer to suddenly like it. I mean, that's just it's it's un-American, honestly.
and also
To
not support us.
yeah, yeah, to just like change who you are fundamentally and not pay us for it, like not cool, guys.
Anyway, um, my recommendations for the week. I've been watching this German show. Not to get too un-American, but I've been watching this German show called Cassandra, and it's about a smart home from the 1970s, and a family moves into it in the 2020s, and then things go awry because it's a computer from the 1970s. It's like a haunted house,
Hmm.
but through Alexa, which I think is kind of fun. The first episode was really, really gripping, and then the second episode hits you with all the pathos. And my Amazon robot just went off because I said the name aloud. Love this capitalism world we live in. Um, yeah. The second episode really hits you with all the pathos, and we are just hooked. We had to stop watching it because we would end up sitting there for 6 hours just to
Hmm.
watch the whole series. Have you ever watched the show Dark?
No, I was gonna ask about it because it was the only other German show I could name.
When people think German and sci-fi, they think Dark, which is, I did the same thing. We loved Dark when we watched it, and not to say that this gives us the same vibes as Dark, because that was time travel and multiversal and all that stuff, and this hasn't gone there yet. I don't think it's gonna.
Mhm.
Um, but it is really, really interesting looking at AI and human interaction. That I'm finding more interesting. My partner and I have been having a lot of conversations as we've watched these two episodes, and we're going to continue watching it after we get off, um, about the ethics of talking to robots and interacting with AI.
Hmm.
For example, one of the things that she said, that when she interacts with ChatGPT, she uses polite vernacular. So she'll say, "Please do this," and maybe
Ooh.
she'll say thank you, maybe she won't. And I told her I don't do that. That I think that's weird and inappropriate because it's software. It's little ones and zeros that were programmed.
Mhm.
And her idea, and I understand where she's coming from, is that she wants to be a person who acts with kindness and politeness, no matter who or what she's interacting with. And I do
Wow.
understand that point of view. It's less so about the object, and it's more so about her being the subject of politeness and kindness and compassion.
That reminds me of that like copy pasta post that I'm not sure if it's true or where what the context is exactly, but I've seen it in a couple versions that like um it's like a guy standing with a sign outside the White House protesting, and someone comes up to them and says, why are you protesting? You don't like, do you think you're going to change anything? And he
Hmm.
says, uh, I'm not, I don't think I'm going to change anything. I just don't want this country to change me.
Yeah,
That's what it reminds
yeah,
me of.
yeah. No, it's a similar principle, and I really appreciate her that, and I love her for that. I think I I told her that I still have a disagreement with it, and I still dissent with that. Excuse me, because it sets up this precedent that can be abused later on.
Mm,
And without spoilers in the show, that same episode, it gets abused very immediately and everything goes to
mm.
hell in a handbasket. And I was pointing at the TV and I was like, see, I told you this is why you don't dignify the inhuman thing with humanity. because those with worse judgment or less evolved judgment than adults will treat AI and robots as humans, which might affect human to human relationships.
Mm.
And that's where there's some interesting ethics that they're exploring. So yeah, we're very, very into the ethics and the morality of interacting with AI, especially as AI becomes more ingrained in everyday life and work. But I definitely recommend anyone watch that. I recommended that to my mom, who doesn't like sci-fi, and I was
Mm.
just like, it's a good like human story, despite there being a lot of AI centric ideas in it.
I have a question about the computer in the house.
Yeah.
Does it have like a giant room full of spinning tapes and stuff like a
Yes.
70s computer?
Yeah.
Does it really?
In the basement. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so they're really
Yeah.
trying to sell you on like this is old technology and this is how it
Yeah.
could have worked. Cool.
Yeah.
I like
I'm
that.
pretty sure that there are flashbacks in the show too. And I'm guessing the flashbacks are going to lead up to how the house became a smart house.
Mhm.
But they have like the punch cards from the 70s that show you how the
Wow.
computers work. Yeah, the first episode, the first like 10 minutes, the son goes to the basement and you see a wall of tapes and buttons and retro technology, and he flips a lever and then the computer comes on again.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, it's very, very cool. And it's just a mini series. It's not any long running thing either. So I think it's worth the buy-in.
And what's it on?
Netflix.
Netflix. Cool.
Yeah, Netflix. So that's what we're watching right now. What I just finished reading as I was combating the flu the last couple days was a short graphic novel called We Called Them Giants by Kieran Gillen, Stephanie Hans, and Clayton Cowles. It is essentially just a post-apocalyptic fable
Hmm.
of two young women running away from gangs, from wolves, and from these two giants in this post-rapture like world.
Hmm.
What drew me to it is I love the art of Stephanie Hans, the way she uses paints to color and just accentuate her lines is incredible. It just pops off the page. Kieran Gillen does great work in terms of character and plotting and all that, and he really, really hits it with great twists. But oftentimes his writing can be kind of heady for me and a
Hmm.
little too stuck in the techie sci-fi world. But reading this, he was just firing on emotions, and you get no answers about why the world is the way it is, and you want them. I still do,
Hmm.
but it's not what the story is about. It's about these two girls trying to survive and what they go through and how they go through it, and then ultimately what these giants do to and or for them and how that impacts them as people.
Hmm.
And I blazed through the whole thing in a day, which granted it's like only 90 pages and again it's a graphic novel, but I really just sat with the artwork, and the narration of the protagonist Laurie was extremely gripping. I could have stayed in that world and in Laurie's head all day
Hmm.
and further. I definitely recommend that. I'll give it to you when I see you
Cool.
next, just
Yeah.
to read, because you can knock it out in a day and you'll love it. It's beautiful.
Great.
It's one of those things where, again, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone that might be listening, but it'll make you think a lot after and make you feel a lot and consider the way you carry yourself in the
Hmm.
world based on these huge fantastical ideas, which that's my favorite part of speculative fiction.
You just reminded me of something. Have you read The Sculptor by Scott McCloud?
No, I haven't. I've read a couple of his other books about comics, like making comics, understanding
Hmm.
comics, but I haven't read The Sculptor.
I'm going to let you borrow that because uh, you will love it as someone who loves creativity and like what it means to be an artist and how you weigh that in your life versus the other things that can give you happiness. Like it's fantastic. I don't know why. Something about what you just said about We Call Them Giants reminded me of that, and we'll do a book swap for that because I think you'll love it.
Cool, sounds good. I'm hyped to read it.
Yeah.
Well,
See, I just snuck in a fourth recommendation there.
yeah, no, that was good. Appreciate that. Any other thoughts on anything before we head out? Any other Spindrift lies you want to spin?
Lies? What are you talking about? When what to everyone hearing this, when you hear it, we will have just played a show in our band the night before at Our Wicked Lady in Brooklyn. So there's no way to tell you like, hey, if you're hearing this, come check us out because it'll have already happened. But find us on Instagram, see if we have any pictures up from it yet, or follow us to see when those pictures do drop. Or DM us even and be like, hey, how'd it go? Or comment on one of our pictures or something. We'd love to talk to you about it.
Nice. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. And we will see you next week for our new series.
Yeah. This could be a good one.
Bye.
Bye.